مرحبا واهلا وسهلا فيكم بويبينار جديد من السيريز يلي الليبنان انتربرايز ديفلوبمنت بروجكت عم نعملها تنحاول نكون قد ما فينا عم نتوجه لبين بوينت الاس ام ايز بلبنان عم بيعانوها ونحاول نقدم لهم حلول. اليوم حنحكي عن موضوع كتير مهم يلي صار لنا اكثر من سنه كل الاس ام ايز وحتى الكلاينتس عم بيعانوا منه، هو how to cost when local currency devaluate. عندنا كل هالمتغيرات اللي عم بتصير بالكرنسي اللبنانيه وكذا سعر صرف، كيف فينا نحن كبزنس اونر نفهم الكوستنج تبعنا مزبوط ونعمل الكوستنج تبعنا مثل ما لازم، حتى بذات الوقت نحن نضل في سستينابيلتي للبزنس تبعنا وما نكون عم نعمل اوفر برايسنج على الكلاينت ونخسر زبونات. رح نحكي عن هالموضوع بعد 3-4 دقائق. اسمحوا لي بس ارجع اذكر بالليد بروجكت للاشخاص الجداد معنا. الليد يلي هو Lebanon Enterprise Development بروجكت ممول من اليو اس اي اي دي. المين كونتراكتور هن كمونكس انترناشونال. بيريتاك one of the subcontractor مسؤولة عن كل مناطق لبنان من عدا شمال. أنا فادي نفاع دايركتور بيريتاك على الليد بروجكت. بالشمال في زملائنا بالبيات هن كمان سب كونتراكتور لكمونكس بيهتموا بكل الاس ام ايز يلي موجودين بالشمال. الليبنان انتربرايز ديفلوبمنت بروجكت هدفه يساعد الشركات يلي عندها تكنيكال تشالنج عم تمنعها من انه تكبر السيلز تبعها وتخلق وظائف عمل للبنانيه. وي كوست شير ويز ذم الكوست تبع التكنيكال بيرسون الكونسلتنت بيجي بيشتغل معهم حتى تو اوفركم ذيس تكنيكال تشالنج. التكنيكال تشالنج ممكن تكون any kind of technical challenge، ممكن تكون some certification يلي هن بدهم ياخدوها حتى يقدروا to close more deal، ممكن يكون some specification بالبرودكت تبعهم لازم يحسنوها، يمكن بده they want to design a new line of product بدهم يشتغلوا على الشيلف لايف تبعهم، اما بحاجه يطوروا البزنس تبعهم they need to restructure their business. البزنس تبعهم عمره 20-30 سنه، هلا صار في جيل جديد مستلم البزنس they need to adapt مع هلا شو عم بيصير بالسوق والتكنولوجيا هلا موجوده بالسوق. they need to restructure your business model حتى يقدروا هلا يشتغلوا على هالموضوع. مشان هيك نحن بنقدم هالتكنيكال اسيستنس. نحن منا ليميتد لسيكتور معين، فينا نشتغل مع كل الاندستري بلبنان. يلي بحب يعرف اكثر هلا زملائي رح يعملوا شيرنج بالشات لللينكس تبعنا، وحتى فيكم تعبوا ابلكيشن فورم اونلاين وحدا من البزنس ادفايزر اللي عندنا بيتصل فيكم بيفهم اكثر البزنس تبعكم وبنشوف نحن كيف فينا نتعاون معكم. هلا بس عم بيقولوا لي عندنا مشكله بالميكروفون. So let me just اوكي. هلا رح ننتقل لمسيو ديديه سلوكجي. ديديه هو فاينانس دايركتور لمان انتربرايز ومسيرته كلها بالفاينانس اندستري مع مالتي ناشونال كومباني. رح يروح عم يكون عم يحكينا اكثر من يرجع يذكر بالبيزكس طبعا هاو تو دو ا كوست، ويرجع يفوت اكثر بكل التعقيدات تبع اللي عم بيصير بالماركت اللبناني حتى تستفيدوا وتعرفوا اكثر كيف فيكم تعملوا كوستينج للبرودكت تبعكم. Didier, تفضل. Hi Didier.
Hi Fadi. Thank you for the introduction. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's presentation, How to Cost When Local Currency Devaluates. Thank you for taking time out and being here today. As you all know, we are living in unprecedented times in Lebanon. The Lebanese companies have been now on a survival mode, and in addition to that, the economic situation is generating further complexity in the way that we are operating. Historically, we used to deal in a dual currency. Apparently nowadays, it's not enough. We are in a 3D system. The 3D system is the multiple currencies that we're gonna elaborate together. So given the size of most Lebanese companies, I believe that this represents it's a common challenge that we have to address across industries. Unfortunately, today we will be looking only into the manufacturing and FMCG. But definitely this example can be used for other industries. So during this session, we will be looking at the following: how to cost the product, costing in dual currency, the fresh money and dollar, and how to calculate the break-even on the section 3, the section 4, the importance of management accounts, and the section 5, I will give an explanation of the latest decree 893/1 issued by the Ministry of Finance. So let's first begin with the basic definition of the production, manufacturing cost, and the cost structure of all the companies. Okay, so what's the difference between production and manufacturing cost? The production costs are all companies' costs to achieve the finished product. That could be a TV, a furniture, or a mobile, for example, or for the service company to deliver a service, like, I don't know, a consultancy service, a cleaning company, any other service. While the manufacturing costs, they represent only the expenses necessary to build this product. Therefore, these expenses are directly linked to the manufacturing process of this product. So we have three categories. We have the direct material cost and the direct labor cost that can be fixed or variable, and the factory overhead. We're going to see the cost structure of the companies in this example. So the first one, this is an example of the cost structure of manufacturing companies. These costs can be identified under two levels. The first one, you have the direct material, direct labor, and as I mentioned, the factory overhead. In the direct material, you have the purchase of raw material, goods, consumables, etc. So these are directly related to the manufacturing process. The direct labor represent the supervision and labor force, salaries, wages, while the factory overheads are the maintenance, the rent, electricity, water, stationery, etc. The second level of the cost structure of the manufacturing company is that we have to differentiate between direct cost and indirect cost. The direct costs are split into two, the variable and fixed. When I say variable cost, this is linked to the volume of production. For example, if I'm increasing my volume, my production, automatically I have to buy more raw material or more consumable. So this is why I have highlighted them in red font. Same for the wages. The wages, when I'm hiring wages on a maybe daily basis or weekly basis, I consider them as variable cost. So the direct material and direct labor are considered as direct costs related to the manufacturing of my product, while the indirect costs are the factory overhead. So as a start, the total of the direct material, direct labor, and factory represent my production cost. I will consider that this should be, as entrepreneur or as directors, general manager, is the first exercise that you have to do. If you are unable to do that, you may ask for your finance director or CFOs to provide you with such a structure. I will move to the second cost structure of fast-moving consumer goods. Now, the system is the same, but the breakdown of these expenses are different, definitely. So in the FMCG, I have the cost of material, the purchase of material. I don't have raw material, delivery cost, and then the other direct costs are the selling and distribution expenses, like showroom and sales, office expenses, market research, etc. And the variable costs are the commissions on sales and salesman salary. While the office overhead are almost similar, like the factory. We have maintenance, we are paying rent, marketing and advertising, insurance. Definitely, I did not list the whole list of expenses, but this is just an example. And again, we have to do the same exercise to differentiate between direct cost and indirect cost. Within the direct cost, also the variable and fixed cost. We're going to see later why we need to differentiate these costs between variable and fixed cost. So this will be the total cost of the an FMCG company. So in this section now, we are going to tackle the introduction of this fresh money and its complexity in the costing process. By the way, when I say dual currency, definitely the Lebanese pound is considered as a third, but now we'll be focusing on these two main currencies, the fresh money and the dollar. So we will also cover in this section the unit cost definition and calculation. Then I will give you some guidelines and tips about the costing in this dual currency mode, I'll say. Then we're going to have an example together, how to cost a product, and finally, how to mitigate the risk of such uncertainties. Okay. What is a unit cost? The unit cost simply is the total expenditure, okay, that is incurred by a company to produce, store, and sell your product or your service. Why it is important? Because being able to calculate your unit cost, you will allow to review the element of each unit cost, and this will help you to reduce later on, to reduce it to the minimum, to be more competitive. And it will also help to better calculate your selling price. So the production, the product cost per unit is equal to my total production cost, as I mentioned. So it's the total cost of the whole company divided by the number of units sold. This is a quick definition about this unit cost. Now, before reaching the example, let's give you some guidelines and principles that you have that you should take, in my opinion, into consideration. Now, in this current situation, most of the companies they are lost. How can I cost my product? How do I have to make these changes in my accounting or ERP system? So, I advise, as a start, to add new currencies in your ERP system or accounting software, the fresh money or the LPP. The fresh money can be fresh dollars, can be euro, can be GBP, any foreign money, and the LDP, which is they used to call it the dollar. Why? By adding these two currencies, what is the added value? The added value now that you will be able to split or to segregate your payables and receivables by fresh money, okay, and by local dollars. This will help you also to better use your cash flow and in both currencies. Nowadays, all companies, they are paying their suppliers. A part is paid in fresh money, another part in Czech dollars or the dollar, or in LBP. So you will have a clear view of the company inflow of money and outflow of money in these different currencies. So the third point is that you have to separate the item of unit cost between fresh money, dollar, and LBP. Don't worry, we're going to see in the next slide an example. So these are just the guidelines. And the fourth point is that you have to the unit rate formula. It's easy to adapt. So when today, for example, the exchange rate of USD over the Lebanese pound is decreasing, let's say today it's 9,000 and it's moving to 10,000, okay, you have to adapt quickly. Otherwise, you will lose money and your gross margin will consequently decrease. This is why, if it is possible, the last guideline I can also propose is to digitize and have automated the breakdown of the unit cost. I'll give you an example. Today now, all the fast food restaurants and other industries, but mainly, They are focusing now on the online purchases of sandwiches, plates, etc. So there is no menu. They are able, for example, if you have a sandwich, you have all the components of this sandwich, they have the unit rate. So whenever the price or the currency or the exchange rate is decreasing or increasing, they are adapting automatically, adjusting the unit cost to hedge themselves. Okay? So these are the 5 guidelines that I highly recommend to do in your company. So additional tips, as I mentioned, that you should have a system to hedge during this floating market currency. It's going, and sometimes the exchange rate is 8,000, but it's say flat for maybe 2 weeks. Now, as you may have noticed that now it's almost reached the 10,000 or 11,000. You should have a mechanism. This is up to you if you have a software, but suppose that you have several products, okay, you should have a system that can do this job for you. And even if you go on online to buy coffee, espresso, anything, everything is digitized and automated. I have noticed that even the price, okay, the selling price is increasing on a daily basis to reach the minimum, okay, that is acceptable by the consumer to buy this product. So the second point, this is depending, of course, on the industry. If it is a B2B, to request from the client a down payment in fresh money to cover the international supplier's cost. And finally, try to substitute the important products by local ones. Many companies nowadays are substituting their products to to be more competitive towards the market. This is also a tip that you should take it into consideration, and this will definitely have a positive effect on the local economy. Okay, let's take this example of a bottle of shampoo that you are going to segregate the unit cost. Okay, so this bottle of shampoo, for example, this is, by the way, example. The numbers that I've put here that are not real numbers. So the bottle of shampoo, it has 4 components: the top cap, label, bottle, etc. So to produce 1 bottle of shampoo, we need 1 top cap, 1 label, and the plastic bottle, and the shampoo in itself, 500 milliliters. So what you have to do is to split, as I mentioned in the previous slide, your unit cost per currency. If you're buying, let's say, the liquid or the shampoo, the ingredients from abroad, for example, this is costing you $2 fresh. And you are paying the top cap in $1, and the bottle of plastic, $2. And the labels, since it's done locally, I was able to manage the price and get it at 5. So the first exercise that you have to convert the rates to LBP. Let's say the 3,000 equal to $1. The Lebanese pound, the 5,000 is 5,000, and the dollar, same 3,900, while the fresh dollar, as of today, for example, is 10,500. Then you convert. I mean, you have your unit cost in LBP. It depends. If you are selling your product in LBP, you should do this exercise. You convert the 3 currencies into 1 currency, the LBP. Now, so it's just simple calculation. I have the total unit cost per currency is 30,700. 21,000 equal the 10,500 times 2, because I need 2 fresh dollars. In case you are pricing your product later on when you're selling in fresh dollar, then you have to convert them into fresh dollars. Nowadays, maybe you've heard that about this word, the multiplier. What is a multiplier? Today, for example, you have a bank overdraft for, let's say, $90,000. If you have fresh money, you can propose to the bank that I will pay you 30,000 as fresh money, and you will close my overdraft. So the 30,000 towards the 90,000, this represents the multiplier of 3. Saying it's happening in the real estate. You want to buy an apartment, they can offer you either the Czech dollars or the dollar, okay, or fresh money. So if you pay in fresh, you have to divide by 3. This is the multiplier. So the 0.29 equal the $1 divided by 3.5. Today, the multiplier, I think it's even more than 3.5, it's 3.9. Then the label, I'll divide the 5,000 divided by the actual market rate, the 10,500. The bottle of plastic, it's the same. I'm converting the dollar to 3.5. And the fresh will be the fresh. So my product, my cost of product today, if it is in LBP, it's 37,700. And if it is in fresh dollar, is 3.34 cents. Okay, this is an example that suggests if you can adapt. Where is the most critical point here in this example? It is the conversion rate to LBP, the 10,500. Today, if, for example, the exchange rate is 12,000, okay, you should change these figures on the spot, okay, and adjust consequently your unit cost. I spoke about hedging. How to hedge? Because today, if let's say you have this 37,700 and the market rate now came up to 12,000, you need more Lebanese pounds to buy, okay, to sell, sorry, to buy the fresh money. So always, if the exchange rate today is, let's say, 10,500, always hedge your position. Let's say that the rate, the unit conversion rate of LBP, instead of 10,500, put it, let's say, 11,500 or even 12,000. So you will have time, by the time, let's say, you sell your product, you get your receivables, and you buy the fresh money, at least you will not lose money as exchange in the exchange rate. And consequently, this will be reflected in your gross margin that will also decrease. Okay, so I'll move to the mitigation. How to mitigate the risk? While increasing, as I said, the unit cost, which is only the part on the fresh money, okay, it's important to take into consideration that always the profit margin, because my unit cost is 37,700. You have to multiply it by a profit margin that you will decide, but always take into consideration that should be acceptable by the consumer, and that the consumer also himself should be able to buy your product. And definitely this margin should be acceptable, this profit margin should be acceptable, so that the company at the end of the year will make a decent profit. Same also, if it is possible, to request a down payment from client for the part that is related to the fresh dollars. Also, take into consideration that nowadays the banks are not financing your working capital. So pay attention on the payment terms policy, whether it is related to your receivables and payable, because this will help you to maintain a healthy cash flow for your company to sustain and to survive this period. So we've done with the section 2. We will move to the section 3, which is the break-even. Okay. What is in the break-even? We review now the fixed cost and variable cost. This is why during the first slides I told you that we will be using the fixed and variable cost to calculate my break-even point. Okay, what is the break-even? The break-even point is as easy as that, is when the total revenues equal the total charges. So you have zero profit. This is why, to be able to calculate the break-even point, you have three important points to take into consideration. You have to calculate the variable cost and the fixed cost and the contribution margin. The variable cost is the cost that varies with the change of level of activity. I'm increasing my my production, I'm increasing my sales, I have to increase my production. By increasing my production, I have to purchase more and more raw material. While the fixed costs are fixed during the total period. For example, if I'm increasing my my production, my rent will not increase, the depreciation cost will not increase. Okay, this is like an example. So it's up to the business industry to differentiate between variable and cost. And the third point that we needed to calculate the break-even is the contribution margin. What is a contribution margin? The contribution margin is the revenues minus the variable cost. Okay. So this is a chart of the break-even point. As you may have noticed that this point, okay, represent the break-even point. Any unit sold less than this number, the company will not generate profit. Any unit that is sold above this number will generate profit. So in general, when we say the company has the sale exactly with it's the total sales that equals to the total charges, this is, we say that we have zero profit, so the break-even is zero. If it is above, it is profit, unless it is loss. So the formula of the break-even can be calculated on at two levels, by amount, by value, or by unit. The break-even amount is total fixed cost, so I would take the whole total cost, and I divide it by the contribution margin, which is the contribution margin, revenues minus variable cost. If I want to calculate my break-even per unit, say how much unit I need to buy to sell, to break even, to have a profit zero, then it's the same calculation, but I will divide my total fixed cost divided by the selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. Okay, let's better to see an example. Okay, this is, first of all, as I mentioned in the when I started the webinar, that we have to understand the cost structure of the company. Okay, this is like a helicopter view. Then from the cost structure, I have to split them as direct and indirect. Then the third level is to split them between fixed and variable. In this company, the material and labor cost, they represent my variable cost. So I have revenues of 200,000, material 65,000, and labor 45,000. So the total variable cost is 110, okay? And my contribution margin is 200 minus 110, which is 90,000. And here I have per unit. What is the cost per unit? Because the variable, we need to have the unit cost. Okay. For the material, let's say for each unit costs $65 and the labor $45. Then in the remaining section, I have from the supervision rent, all of these are considered, and the salaries and overhead are considered as fixed costs. So the total fixed costs of this company equal these 6,700 plus 60,000. Okay, and here I have to put the percentage of total. Always the revenue will represent 100%, and then the 33% is the 65,000 divided by 200,000. So always we have to get these percentages, we have to divide them by the revenues. Same for the labors. So I have, at the end of the year, I have a profit of 13,300. Let's calculate the break-even. Well, what is my break-even? My break-even point is, as I said, it's the total cost, so it's 16,700 plus 60,000 divided by the contribution margin percentage, which is this one, 45,000. Okay, sorry, 45%. So by having calculated the break-even, okay, the minimum revenue I need to break even, say, not to make losses or profit, is 178,444. Let's try to check if this revenue is correct. So I will put the revenues in this column, 170,444. And now I'm going to calculate the material and labor. Since these two charges are variable, so I have to multiply them by the percentage. So 170,444 times 33%, I'll have 55,394. Same for the labors, while the fixed cost will remain the same, irrespective of the activity. Definitely, the fixed costs are fixed within a relevant range. For example, if you need to not even double, to triple your production or even more, you need more space. You have, then your rent, for example, will increase, but this is not considered as a variable cost. So as you may have noticed that my fixed costs remain the same. I'll end up with a 0. So this means that my break-even is correct. And let's calculate now the break-even per unit. The formula, it's total cost divided by the selling unit price minus the variable cost. So the unit cost, I have 65 and 45. So the contribution margin per unit is 200 minus 65 minus 45. I'll have 90. So I'll divide the total cost, fixed cost, I divide them by 90. I'll have 852 units. Now I have my break-even per unit. In order to break even, to have a 0 profit, a profit null, I need to buy 852. Unfortunately, not all the companies, they do this exercise. It's very important to know, as a general manager, as also you entrepreneur, you should know when you will reach your break-even point, because there is a huge difference. If, for example, you will reach your break-even in June, for example, or you will reach your break-even in, for example, September. It makes sense, because if by November you did not reach your break-even point, you need, for example, to make promotions, sales promotion, reduce your price to be more competitive. You've seen this in the supermarket, where you have, let's say, 2 bottles of shampoo, buy 2, get 1. These are promotions, okay, to increase the revenues and consequently reach the break-even. And sometimes definitely they do it for marketing purpose. But this is one of the reasons. You should not wait till the end of the year and calculate your break-even. Okay? I'm sorry if I went through some financial, say, accounting details, but it is very important to do this. So now, this is the third exercise that you should do in the company. We'll move to the section 4. Section 4 is the importance of management account. In this section, we will review and understand the difference between the audited books and the real accounts, which is now in after adding the currencies in your accounting software in Fresh, and how to interpret these financial statements. As a first step, unfortunately, also part of the company, they are preparing a budget. It is imperative by, let's say, November. If I'm going to talk about year 2021, it is imperative by December 2020 to prepare a budget for the year N+1. And now it's still early, you can do it. We are in March. If you have already prepared a budget, then you have to modify it this way. You will segregate the budget between fresh money, dollar, and LVP. Then, for example, the bottle of shampoo, okay? You know the cost. We have the three currencies, the fresh, the USD, and the dollar, okay? You are going with your marketing team to run a simulation that you, for example, you have estimated to sell X number of shampoo. Then under revenue in your budget, if there is a part that will be sold in fresh, you will separate your revenues as fresh or dollar. Same also at the bottom of for your cost, for moving to the overhead. Or we are at the direct cost. You are paying labors, right? How are you paying them? Are you paying them in fresh or in dollars? Because some of the companies, they are paying the salaries part of in French and part in dollar. You have to do the same thing. Separate them between fresh and dollar. We're going to see an example. So,
Didier,
just to tell you, wait.
يا جاست بوينت اذا فيك تضلك مقرب لقدام لانه الفويس بس ترجع لورا عم بصير يقطش بليز.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is why it is very important to have a separate budget. A combined budget will not be relevant at all, and you're going to see. You will be unable to interpret your gross margin because you are mixing the fresh, the dollar, and the LVP, and each currency has a different valuation. The third point is that in addition to the budget, you prepare your budget and you have to review your financial statement. Financial statement, I mean your income statement and balance sheet on a quarterly basis. You compare the actual figures with the budgeted figures and you take necessary action, okay, whenever it needs to do that. Very important. Let's be more practical and take this example. Suppose that you have prepared a budget. Same, also it should be well presented according to the cost structure that I've mentioned in the beginning of the webinar. My revenues estimation 200,000, direct cost 110, etc., etc. Same the example that we took to calculate the break-even. Okay, I have my estimated profit is 13,300. Is this profit real? It has really a sense? No, it is not. Unfortunately, it is not. Why? Because if you split your budget between fresh and dollar, this is, as I repeat, this is only estimation. You estimate that some of the contract that you are going to sign during the course of 2021, you have 50% of your revenues will be considered as fresh money. You're going to bill in fresh money, and always remember in the accounting, this 100,000, first 100,000, they should be booked in your accounting as per the new currency that you are going to add, irrespective if it is dollar or euro or pound, anyway. And also you have another section, or this is as per the estimation, You have another 100,000 that you are going to sell, but in dollar. You cannot receive Czech dollars, while the first one, you will be receiving fresh money from abroad. Same thing for the cost. In the example that I gave you for the unit cost of the bottle of shampoo, a part of this cost is in fresh and another part is in dollar. You have to split your cost also between what you will be billed, receive from your supplier as fresh and the other part. For example, here, I think it's 25% you will be paying, or this will be your cost in fresh, and 84,700 in local dollars. So my contribution margin, the part is 74,000. At this level of the income statement, what you can conclude is that I will have a profit at the first level of 74,000 in fresh dollars, and while in the dollar it will be only 15,250. What does it mean? Today, if you have 74,000 as fresh money, okay, if you want to convert them, this money into Lebanese pound, you will make a huge profit of exchange. And if, for example, you are paying the national security in LBP, or you will be paying the income tax, salaries tax, you will be making lots of profit. Okay. Then we'll move to the direct cost, fixed cost. I have a total of 3,340. Then the same for salaries, overhead. What will be now my profit or loss? Only for the section related to the fresh dollars, I have a profit of 59,410. And in dollar, I have 46,110. It is exactly the same. So the difference between 59 and 46 equal to 13,300. But what is the difference between these two way of preparing the budget? Is that if you will be receiving the 59,410, as you know, that when you move from the income statement to the cash flow, you start with the profit. So this 59,000, suppose that, take a simple example, that if you pay all your, you settle all your payables and you receive all your money, you will end up at the bank with 59,400. While here you will have, for example, an overdraft of 46,110. But what is my real profit? My real profit is not 13,300. It is the 59,410 minus the dollar that I have to divide by the multiplier. So my real profit is 46,236 in fresh money, while the combined budget is showing only 30,300. So what is the importance of doing this simulation? Definitely this part will be internal for the company. This will not disclose this information to the Ministry of Finance. No, this is an exercise. But while this part, the combined budget, okay, it represents the figures that will be audited. But if you have to present the financial statement, the budget, let's say, to the board of directors, definitely you will not present the combined. You may just show it as indicative. But this is the main part that should be discussed during the board meeting, and to better evaluate and have the real profit. Okay, this will be the fourth exercise. Now we have 4 exercises. This will be the fourth. I encourage you. Now we are still in March to review your budget and make this calculation. Definitely, you need. It is imperative to have as a first step the cost structure of the company. Know your cost structure, and then you split them again between direct and indirect, and then variable and fixed cost. to be able to reach to this statement. Okay, so this is the importance of having to segregate the budget into fresh. In this example, I took fresh dollars. As I said, it could be euros, any other foreign currency. So this is the end of section 4. We'll move now to the final section. Okay, that is this decree 893 overdraw. Please, what I did, I had many meeting calls with auditors, with finance people, etc. So we came up, and I think most of you have received this explanation. So this is not something that should be applied, or you're going to say that Didier said that. No, okay? And this is why there is an ambiguity. What is this ambiguity? Before, let's try to understand. This decree stated that if you sell or you issue an invoice, and in the against this invoice you're going to receive fresh money, it is mandatory to calculate the due tax, which is the VAT on the invoice, based on the trading price, the black market. Now, this is the ambiguity. This decree mentioned only that you will use the actual. Okay, but what is this actual rate? What is the reference? There's no reference. Because usually the only entity that is allowed to fix this rate is the Banque du Liban. Okay, this is why we were all, confused since January, what we are going to do, which rate, what is the reference. So, I repeat, whenever you are selling or you are invoicing in fresh, then if you are, for example, for $100, okay, you should mention the counter value in LBP, because the invoice should be issued. If you're issuing in LBP, you have to show the column in Lebanese pound at the actual rate, which is the market. But at the same time, also, if you are selling and you know that you are going to receive your receivables in Czech dollars, okay, then the counter value of this US dollar will be 1,515. And in case, the third point, your invoice is issued in LBP, the applicable rate, USD LBP, will be fixed with the consent of both parties. You are going, for example, to buy, I don't know, stationery, okay? The supplier will tell you, okay, do you want me to bill you on fresh money or the Lebanese pound? So this is why I said it's you need the consent. If it is the Lebanese, he will definitely bill you according to the black market rate, which is the now 10,000 or 11,000. Okay. Then the fourth point, in case you are issuing, you have a contract with your client that states that part of this contract will be in fresh and the other part will be in Czech dollars or dollar. And you have to invoice your client with both currencies. So the first item, you can see the invoice, better to move to directly to the example. Okay. Now, let's take this example that your invoice, the first item based on the contract, for sure, you have quantity 1 and unit price 200. So, okay, the unit rate is 10,000. Okay, the amount in LBP should be according to the market unit rate, and it's 200,000 times 10,000. You have 2 million Lebanese pounds. And if you are billing the item 2 in Czech dollars that you can receive by Czech dollars, the counter value of the Lebanese pound will be at 1,507. So you will have 113.63. You will, the subtotal will be, the sum of the Lebanese pound at the rate of 10,000, okay, and also at the rate of 1,500. And on the total amount, you will pay the VAT. And this is really, it's still, as of now, it is not applicable. It is not yet enforced. Most of the company, let's say we during the month of January, we have informed the client, and the client they refused. So it was really not clear at all. Not clear at all. So now what is going on between suppliers and subcontractors, and what also I advise you to do, is that to keep on billing according to the year 2020, with also an undertaking, you may say that in case the Ministry of Finance will issue clarification on this degree, and will specify the reference of the applicable rate, then you as a company, you have to revise the invoice sent to your client, and also your suppliers will have to revise their invoices. But honestly, I don't know. I don't think that this will be applicable, because it will be a total mess to revise all these invoices. This is a simple way to clarify the. I will not go to the accounting treatment. This is not the case, but just to understand what exactly you need to know, and how later on, in case if it is applicable, what you have to do. In addition to this, that even all the accounting software, the ERP, I got in touch with them. They even did not make any modification, because even most of the companies, they don't have this infrastructure to add a third currency. It cannot be done. It's really complicated. In Lebanon, all the Lebanese companies had the first currency and the second currency. And this is why I suggested to add a currency, which is the fresh, but the counted value should be at 1,500. And this will help you when you will compare the actual figures to the budget. You will be comparing fresh money to the budget in fresh. At the end, what will be the key takeaways that you have to take into consideration? We have 6 points. The first one is you have to understand the company cost structure. What are my direct and indirect costs? What are the fixed and variable costs? The second point, add the currencies. The currencies required. If you have 2 or 3 fresh money, if you are dealing with fresh dollars, euro, you will add them on your system. The third point, always cost your product and services in dual currencies, as we did for the bottle of shampoo. To adapt fast enough, take action, and avoid losing money. The fourth point, if possible, to digitize and automate the breakdown of your unit cost, to be able to adapt quickly. Whenever the rate is increasing, on the spot, you change the price. And the fifth point is to elaborate a yearly budget in all currencies. Always compare apple to apple. You compare the fresh, actual fresh, in your income statement. For example, you are comparing your revenues in fresh dollars to the budget in fresh dollars. This is the real comparison. If you really want to have a good interpretation, this is what you have to do. And the sixth point, always focus on the pricing that would ensure the continuity of the company. Maybe I'll say that nowadays maybe it's not the time to gain new market unless you are exporting your product abroad. This is a different story. So maintain, always keep in mind, the price should be acceptable by the consumer, and the consumer will be able to pay such price. At the end, I'm gonna thank you, and I hope that you will get benefits from this webinar. I leave the floor to Fatih.
Thank you Didier. Thank you على كل هالانفورميشن. يعني انا صراحه عم بحاول تابع، ما بعرف الاتندي قديش قدروا يضلوا مركزين. It's a lot of number, a lot of information. خصوصا اذا منك اكسبرت ان فاينانس. في عندنا كثير اسئله، في عندنا 47 سؤال. I will try to summarize as much as possible. اول سؤال كثير عالم عم تسال انه اذا هن ان السيرفيس اندستري ما عم يشتروا بضاعه من برا، ما عم يشتروا برودكت، هن زي بروفايد سيرفيسز، كيف بتنصحهم يعملوا البرايسنج تبع السيرفيس تبعهم ليبر ان بارتيكولر، لانه هيدا يعني كثير عم يواجهوه مع الزبونات تبعهم. يعني الزبونات كثير عم بيحكوا انه اوكي بفهم بضاعه عم بتبيعني اياها على الفريش دولار، بس ليش السيرفيس؟ سو كيف how do you suggest to price their services, especially labor?
Okay, thank you for the question. It's the same example. When you have, you know, the cost structure of the company for a service. I'm just thinking aloud. You have, you are the, let's say, maybe service is really wide, but I think the example of service maybe as a consultant, consultancy service you're providing, or any specific Fadi.
في عنا on services we have a lot. في consultancy services.
Consultancy services. Let's take this example. You are paying man hour, right? Okay, these man hour, or your consultant. How are you paying your consultant? Is it part of in fresh and part in dollar? You should have the same cost structure as I mentioned in the slide, and split them the way that you are paying your consultant. This is the first one. And at the same time, how are you billing them? If you're billing them only in fresh, in let's say US dollar, then you need to segregate your budget into two sections, and at the end to check the profit, okay, to the combined profit between fresh and dollar, and see if this is profitable or not.
اوكي ديديه، بس can you please stop sharing حتى العالم يشوفونا اوضح نحن وعم نجاوب على الاسئله بليز. اوكي جريت. سو السؤال الثاني كمان عندنا around service provider المين كوست از variable. سو عندهم فريش وعندهم 1515 وعندهم دولار، بس هن زي ار asking انه عندهم بروبلم بالبرايسنج، لانه الكاستمر بيس تبعهم قسم منها بعدها عم تقبض فريش، فالبيرشيسنج باور تبعهم صارت اعلى، قسم منها بالال بي بي عم تقبض، فالبيرشيسنج تبعهم صارت اوطى. عم يسالوا انه كيف زي شود برايس. هلا انا عندي جواب، بدي اسمع جوابك التقني برجع انا بجاوب جواب بزنس.
سوري بس ما سمعت مضبوط السؤال.
اوكي السؤال هو هن سيرفيس بروفايدر، المين كوست عندهم از فاريبل، سو عندهم فريش، عندهم دولار، وعندهم ال بي بي بيزد على الويجز والسالري، بس اتس لينك تو ذا كونتراكت حسب الكونتراكت مع كل سيرفيس بروفايدر لهم، وهن زي بروفايد سيرفيسز. الكلاينت تبعهم عندهم مشكله بالبرايسنج، سو السؤال الاساسي how to solve the problem of pricing since they have two category of client. One client category is still getting paid in fresh USD, so purchasing تبعهم بعدها عاليه. Another client category they are paid in LBP, فالpurchasing power تبعهم صارت limited.
Okay, so the problem is about now pricing, how to price the client, because you have variable. Okay, again and again, Fadi, what we have to do is always referring to this cost and to split. Now you said that these variable costs, okay, I cannot just answer you on the spot how to do, but you should split these variable costs, okay, by item. If we're talking about consultant, how this consultant is being paid, okay, and to run a simulation to calculate the break even. Once you are able to calculate your break even based on these variable costs, the same example that I did, you will do some simulation. Okay, that for example, if I price and the pricing is in Czech dollars, sorry, or in fresh?
Sorry?
The pricing is in fresh?
they are asking how they should price، لأنه هن اذا بدك يعني they are trying to benefit انه الكاستمر بيس تبعهم قسم منها بعده البيرشيسنج باور تبعه بالعكس صارت اعلى لانه عم بيقبض فريش، بس قسم من الكاستمر بيس صارت ال بي بي المعاشات تبعهم فالبيرشيسنج تبعهم صارت اوطى.
Okay, in my opinion, if let's say you have 20% of your variable cost in French, try to convince the clients, okay, to have a part of this contract also in fresh dollar to compensate and avoid this, fluctuation later on in the exchange rate. But
Okay.
I'll be very honest with you, this is really very complicated, work to be done, but we have to do it. Each one of us should do this.
I understand. وبس مسج لكل الاتنديز معنا انه it is really on a case by case basis, so it's really tough to answer each one's case
Exactly.
through a webinar. My advice would be the webinar is being recorded so they can rewatch the recording. It's going to be posted next week. راح يوصل لهم ايميل باللينك كمان تبع الليد يوتيوب channel, so they can rewatch it slowly مع الفاينانس people تبعهم so they can do the exercise. هلا انا ماي بوينت بس تعقيبا على هذا الموضوع for companies that they have a customer base بعدها عم تقبض فريش ما نركض كثير تنستفيد and to over price. Always do our pricing based on your cost. So اذا انت usually بالايام العاديه كنتوا عم تعملوا البرايسنج تبعكم وتحطوا for example 20 or 30% margin, so stay with the same. بس مثل ما Didier انت عم تقول it's most important to understand your cost structure والكوست تبعكم كيف جاي وبيزد عليها حطوا the same margin. ما نطلع انه بس صار في عندنا customer base عم تقبض بالفريش how we gonna benefit from this ونغلي اسعارنا عليهم، لانه حتى العالم عم تقبض بالفريش from a customer perspective مش كتير راكده حتى تصرف هالفريش. حتى الشركات even if you are in a B2B not in a B2C حتى الشركات مش كتير راكده تصرف وتدفع بالفريش if it's not really necessary and needed and justifiable by the provider انه الكوست تبعه حتى in fresh. So حتى عم نشوف between companies عم بتدققوا بهالموضوع تشوفوا it's really necessary to pay our provider whether services or goods in fresh dollar or not.
Exactly, Fadi. It's very important to have this base cost structured and by unit price. And for the pricing, definitely we did not go through the details of the pricing. This was not the topic, but always keep in mind that by adding this profit margin, make sure that your customers will have this. Will keep on buying the product or the services. Otherwise, they move to your competitor.
Okay. Another question هون عم بيقول انه if their cost their service it's still على 15 يعني دولار على 15,000 و 1515 what is your advice حتى يضلهم بالماركت ما يكونوا يعتبر انه كتير رخاص بس انه sustainably يقدروا يطلعوا enough profit حتى to sustain لانه with time اكيد بدهم يغلوا الاسعار تبعهم.
Okay, what I can advise is to propose to the client a 20% of the contract to be paid in fresh and 80% because these 20% that the company would collect as fresh money would also be able to make profit and even to keep the employees motivated. If you pay them even a small part in fresh, the owner will be able to to keep with the same team and avoid maybe they would end up by leaving the company. So this is
يعني مثل ريسك يعني ياخذوها مثل as a risk mitigation factor ما عم بيغلوا كثير على الزبون.
To propose 20% is fair enough.
20% is fair.
20, 25 it depends.
Okay. Another question: is it possible to stabilize the break-even point بهالقد fluctuating currency?
To stabilize? No. For the simple reason that the exchange rate is fluctuating. Hello, I cannot hear you, Fadi.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, you were saying?
No, it's okay.
Okay. No, it's impossible, but at least the break even, we use the break even to have an idea, okay? To have an idea when you will reach a certain level that you will start making profit. But to stabilize it in this market, I don't believe that it's really difficult to be done.
Okay, so في سؤال هون, since the multiplier is changing, will currency devaluation is changing, is it advisable to review the budget each 3 months or each month to stay on top of what's happening in the market?
If you have part of of your budget is already in fresh, no need. You will compare unless you have an issue with the sales, for example, and you need to make a cost cutting. Yes, at this time you should revise the budget, because as I said, when you prepare the budget in fresh and USD and LDP, okay, you are comparing the actual figures. We are comparing apple to apple, revenues in fresh and budget in fresh.
Okay, so final question, it's simple, but هيدا, if we are a company that we don't have yet an ERP, what's your advice on how to manage this if we don't have yet an ERP اللي dynamically فينا نعمل هالقصص عليه?
Okay, definitely as a startup, you need to have an accounting system. Always. I advise you to have, advise all the startup to start with the basic accounting software. But the ERP usually, when you think of buying an ERP, when you grow your business, okay, it depends also on the industry. For the service and the small service, you don't need an ERP, but it's to know the cost structure of the company accounting software, and this is where you can customize your income statement. Okay. And you customize it in a way to separate the variable and the fixed cost.
Great, thank you Didier. الأسئلة ما عم تخلص، بس عم نكون كتير، يعني صرنا 61 سؤال، عم تكون كتير ديب تكنيكال. برجع بذكر الجميع انه الويبينار is being recorded. We will share the link with you. وحتى من بعد اذنك ديدي، اذا فيك، كثير عالم عم تطالب بالاكسل التيبل اللي حطيتهم. if we can share a blank Excel for them. So كمان رح يوصلكم ايميل باللينك بالاكسل next week اذا الله راد، حتى تقدروا تطبقوها بشكل simple. بس اكيد we advise you to get professional support. وكمان الشركات اللي بتحس انه مثلا اعطي اكزامبل الكوستنج تبعها لانه ما عم تعرف تعمله، عم بياثر كثير على السيلز، وعندها اوبورتونيتي مثلا تبيع لبرا وما قادره تفهم السيلز تبعها تقدر تكبر المبيعات تبعها. كمان we advise you to apply to LED. We can see how we can support you with a technical expertise. يشتغلوا على الفاينانشال تبعكم تفهموا مزبوط الكوست ستراكشر تبعكم، تعرفوا تعملوا برايسنج مزبوط، وتقدروا to compete in the local and international market. increase your sales, create a job لهاللبنانيه اللي احنا بامس الحاجه لها. اللينكس كمان رجعنا we share them with you in the chat. sorry بعد المطار كان الصوت شوي عم بيروح ويجي، بس when you rewatch the recording with the headset رح تقدروا ترجعوا تاخذوا كل هالinformation. ديديه thank you مره جديده لانك
thank you Fadi. Thank you for the attendees.
Thank you for all the attendees اللي كانوا معنا، وانطرونا أكيد بنيو ويبينار على subject جديدة. Thank you all.
Thank you.